What's going on, Sky Squad? We are back in the building. And so let's go ahead and get this thing started. It's Saturday, and we got a little bit of news, a little bit of tea, but we're really gonna break down this episode of Bell Collective. Okay. That's really what I want to do. I want to break down this episode of Bell Collective for y'all. But before we get into that, make sure you guys subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so. Like this video. And tap down in the description of this video. I know it's a lot of it's a lot of chaos going on in the world, right? But y'all, we still here. We still got a mission. So let's continue on. First things first, y'all. I want to talk about, let me see if I can see these. All right. I put the comments on. Okay. Now I can see. Hey, what's going on? Is it Rashawn? I think it's Rashawn. I'm trying to look at these comments off to the side. I'm using a new streaming platform, y'all, so bear with me as I get accustomed to it. You gotta like learn how to use these things. Um, Candice, let's discuss, y'all. Let's discuss Candice. She reveals on her podcast, Undomesticated. Y'all, make sure you guys are following her podcast with her and her co-host Michael as they break down the topics, y'all. They break down the topics. One of the things that she revealed was that, Lisa Rinna, there are so many things that Lisa Rinna says that, I mean, these little nuggets that are coming out from her book. And you just kind of think to yourself, like, there's been moments where I remember why I had so many issues with Lisa Rinna during her time on Housewives. And as I looked at some of the commentary about some of the things that she said in that book, I'm kind of like, it's okay if you go right back to where we left you before you got back on the Traders. I liked you on Traders, but now I know too much about how the inner workings of your mind, and now you, ma'am, can go back into obscurity. Fine, thank you very much. But one of the things that came out of her book was that she was fined $50,000 by NBC Universal. Now, there was something that Lisa Rinna said or did that caused her to be fined. I need to dive further deeper into that book to actually pull out that excerpt. But really, the topic is Candace. Because what she said or reading about that or hearing about that did for her was it made her feel seen because she too had been fined by the network. And this was for social media activity at some point in time. Now, I don't know how deep she goes into what the fine was about, other than when she looked at her check, she realized that she had been fined, but somewhere between what 30 and 35,000. Now, listen, that's a good old chunk of a coin right there. Now, does this surprise me? It doesn't surprise me because I don't know when it happened. But I do remember that Candace was pretty active on Twitter when it was Twitter back in the day. So she would give her thoughts, opinions about the show. She was very active in terms of promoting when the show was on, what her thoughts were, and she was just active. I mean, as most Twitter users have been active. So something she did, something she said on there got her fined $35,000. Again, now $35,000 in the grand scheme of what she was probably being paid may not be that much. Okay. But it's enough. Okay. It is definitely enough to make me change my tune. Okay. For real. Like, oh, you telling me y'all gonna take 35,000? I'm shutting it down. I'm shutting it down. And furthermore, I ain't gonna even be promoting the show. Y'all want me to tweet something, y'all hand it to me. You hand to me what you want me to say. Otherwise, I ain't gonna even be bothered with it because y'all not gonna be taking away my coins because I'm out here, you know, on the social media. Um, Tanaka Sutton says, seems like freedom of speech ain't free. Well, there's freedom of speech, but I guess but it ain't freedom from consequences. Okay. And there's that. There's that. But yeah, shout out to Candace for, telling us that on her podcast. I like her on her podcast. I know that there are a lot of people that feels like she should go back to Housewives. I think she's definitely missed on the Housewives because she knows what it is. But I just think that there is something bigger out there for Candace at this point. And I almost feel like, not that it's a door that should be closed, but I do feel like there is something broader for her, if that makes any sense. Because you can't, here's the thing. Some people have a trajectory, and sometimes when you walk backwards, it is like kind of defying what it is that God has laid out for you, because there's another road being paved for you. And just like some of y'all, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to go back to anything that you felt like hurt you. And you also sometimes need to recognize that sometimes the path forward, there's no need for you to ever look back. So I want that's in my for as a person. That's what I want for Candace, because I think that she has so much other potential: acting, podcasting, music, and just knowing her background and some of her education. I just feel like there's so many other ways that she can go. So there's that. But I always be a part of the Housewives world, right? Go back to the events and stuff like that. But push beyond it, babe. Push beyond it. Not that she even has said that she wanted to go back. I don't think she said that, but that's just kind of my mindset. All right. Let's move right on along. I want to get into Bell Collective. I just thought I would drop that tea. I'm gonna tell y'all the truth. I like to look for stories that I feel like are interesting now. These aren't gonna be the most, I'm not looking for the most salacious stories. I'm looking for the ones that feel like I can contribute something really, really good to the topic. All right. So let's move on to Bell Collective. We're talking about season 7, episode 3 of Bell Collective. Happy Saturday, Joy. Hey, Queen B More. Hey, Tia. Love you too. Be safe on that flight. All right, Bell Collective. We're talking season 7, episode. No, this is episode 4. Let me get into the page. Hold on. I want to read you guys the description. Y'all know Love and Marriage Huntsville is back, right? All right, so season 7, episode 4, Group Therapy. Matt asks Cliff to sit down with Glenn. Tamra gets devastating news about her father, and Carrie brings the Bells to the Gulf and surprises the collective with therapy, a therapy session where Lateshia and Latrice tearfully hash out their issues. All right, all right. Okay. This episode starts where the previous episode ended, with Glenn walking out on Lateshia after Lateshia tells him that she wants to be celibate. I cannot speak to the things that are upsetting to Glenn specifically, but from the outside looking in, okay? From the outside looking in, and I'm just going to be very honest with you, and some of you guys may disagree with this. There are two situations that I think are occurring. One, I think that Lateshia does want to explore her freedom. I think she wants to explore whatever this platform is providing for her. I think she wants to explore her own independence. And I'm actually able to like I'm really interested in her this idea that of her being a bail bondsman. I knew that because she had mentioned it to me, I think way back during one of our previous interviews. And so I've always been interested in that. Like, what does a bail bondsman do? I mean, again, I understand what they do, but I don't understand. I need to understand. I want to understand more about how they make big money. Okay. And maybe it's fairly obvious to most of y'all, but it's not fairly obvious to me. And I'm always interested in how people make their money. Okay. So I think that she does want all of those things. But if she has, if they're going through their issues and she's been open to intimacy up to this point, even throughout their issues, I can understand that he would find it difficult to hear that she now wants to be celibate. Because the word has a connotation of I am going inward and that will I'm going inward and my intimacy is at this point sacred and that is going to exclude you. That is what he's hearing. Okay? That's what he's going to hear, especially if as it seems Glenn kind of operates on what sometimes feels to me like a caveman level. I hate to say it that way. There's a very old school way that he seems to view their relationship that doesn't really seem to jive really with what her expectations of the relationship should be. And therefore, the second thing that feels like it's happening for Glenn is that Letitia is confusing him. Okay. Because Glenn's basic level thinking of what this relationship is, this is not going to compute for him. It's not. It's really not going to compute for him. It's all it's going to sound like to him is you don't want me. Okay. It's that basic for him. And I am certain that for Letitia, it is a bit more high level for her. Okay. It's a bit more high level for her. So, what happens when you have someone who is speaking high level to someone who is not speaking high level? Okay. You're going to have a misalignment in the communication. She could be saying one thing, he's going to hear another. Actually, before she could even explain it to him, based on my understanding of where perhaps he may be, he couldn't even compute that. And so he had to dismiss himself and he had to leave. Okay. So, and I think based on what I can see from you guys' comments, you guys, you understand where I'm coming from with the way we're processing what we're seeing happen. They're at two different levels. Letitia sounds like she is trying to grow and expand. And in order to sometimes expand, you have to go inward. Okay. And I think a lot of us know that. And we may not even, it may be so difficult for some of us to actually go inward in that way because it does mean the exclusion of people who are in our periphery or who are in our orbit or in our lives. They're not going to understand our desire to go inward because we need to grow. It's kind of like a caterpillar goes into its cocoon before it flourishes into a butterfly. She is it seems like wanting to go into a cocoon so she can understand herself and her situation better so that she can stop making the same mistakes. but it will be difficult for her to ever go into her cocoon because she's married to someone who does not understand what that is for her. Hey Tracy, I will see you soon. Okay. So that to me is where they are. So he races off down the street and he's zoom a zoom zoom and a boom boom headed out the door, right? She calling him and he not answering the phone. All right. So there is that bada bing, bada boom. Carrie wants to get the ladies together for a therapy session. I can't even count the amount of times that the word therapy was used. Um, it for some reason annoyed me. But I like Carrie. I like her husband Matt. I like the two of them together. Beautiful couple. I don't really have much else to say about their dynamic in this episode. I like that Matt wanted to take Cliff out. I think Matt has a way, he has a very easy way about himself that allows him to maneuver and talk to Glenn and talk to Cliff from a somewhat higher level, but never seeming to manage to make either of the men feel small in because of the way they may think. Matt seems to be a lot more evolved in his thinking about his relationship with his wife than maybe Cliff or Glenn. But I do think it is I have to agree that I do like Cliff's stance in that if his wife is not here for his relationship with Glenn, then at that point it's a non-negotiable for him. I like that he has that stance personally. Personally, I like it because at the end of the day, the person that you are married to is the person that is going. You got to sleep with that person. That's the person you got to wake up to. It, it would be better to make somebody outside of your home upset than somebody inside your home. So there's that. I agree with that. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I would prefer him take that stance than not. Um, next, that Joy, you're right. That was probably the smartest thing Cliff has ever said. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. Okay, so let's move on. We see Selena is also getting back into the bail bondsman business, which also leads me to ask more questions about I need to understand what is so attractive to this business because what it sounds like to me, and again, I don't know everything, right? I oftentimes will tell you guys straight up, I don't something I don't understand. I look into the chat and sometimes you guys will have the answers as well. What makes being a I gotta understand the intricacies of being a bail bondsman because my thought is if you're putting up bail money for people, what if they run off? Like what if they run off? I mean, do you get your money back? Like, how does that work? I'm guessing you're getting a percentage of the bond or something. Is that how you make your money? Then how does the W can somebody write it in the chat? Give me the Cliff's Notes version, and I'll read it out loud, but right now, I don't feel like going to the Google, to the chat, to well, I'm not using chat no more. I got a ChatGPT. I got to delete that thing, but, um, somebody write it in the chat. Okay. Selena is working on that. She wants to know if what we did not realize was that Carrie actually never invited Lateshia to the therapy session. It was relied on Selena to actually be the person to tell Lateshia that there was even an event to be had, which I thought was interesting. The girls are split going down to the therapy session because Carrie does not live in Jackson. She lives in Gulf Coast. I'm assuming that's the name of the place. My apologies to the people of the Gulf Coast, but I know Jackson. I've been to Jackson. That's what I know. And I know Bell Collective Birmingham coming up, which also should be exciting. That's gonna be interesting to see the dynamics and the differences between Bell Collective and Bell Collective Birmingham. Like, there is a lot of excitement around Stormy right now. And as I stated, when I was watching Love and Marriage Huntsville the past season, I stated that I felt like they needed a Stormy presence. I did. This is before we found out that she was going to Bell Collective Birmingham. So I said they need a Stormy, but I feel like Stormy has her star has just exploded. So I am very interested to see what role she's going to take on this new iteration of Bell Collective because I don't know. Is she just going to be like the Shawnee? You know what I'm saying? Is she going to be like that or is she going to be actually in the mix? Joy, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know when it starts. I would assume that they've already started filming though. Okay, Queen B More says, yes, bail bondsmen make money by charging a percentage of the bail and holding the bond for the remaining portion. If the person doesn't go to court, they lose their bond and the bondsman can collect. Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah, so I'm wondering how that's going. I wonder how that's going to be interesting. That's going to be real interesting. Okay. So on the way down to the Gulf Coast, Carrie is already there because they're going to have it at her house. Tambra, Latrice, and Selena are riding together. And then Marie and Lateshia are riding together. Tambra gets a call and learns that they think her father has had a stroke. And, of course, my heart goes out to her and her dad and her family. So they have to basically pull over and she needs to go and be with her father because everybody's always, I mean, not only because of this, but everybody's called her a daddy's girl. So she really, really is hopeful that her presence there can make a big difference in his recovery. So hopefully we'll get an update on that. She may have already updated something on her social media about, what has happened and how that played out. But we just want to send out some warm thoughts and prayers to her and her family. Okay, they get to the therapy session down at Carrie's house. You know, it's given lemon squeeze. You know what I'm saying, and I get it. It's a fun thing. When she said therapy, and she keeps talking about self-care, I am thinking that there is gonna be a massage therapist or somebody there, or, some person that is doing facials and well, maybe not the facials because I know that this is one of those shows where the women probably wanna show up on camera, gotten their makeup done. They're probably not taking this makeup off. But at least doing their probably they don't want to get their nails done because they've already probably gotten their, tips and stuff done or whatever by their professional technicians or whatever like that. Okay, well at least get your foot rubbed or something. I don't know. Girl, when you say self-care and all I see is some plastic some paper mache on the table or all I see is some baglets on the table. No, you said self-care, girl. I was under the illusion that I have traveled from here to there so that I can be cared for. I mean, can somebody be doing something for all of us? I mean, other than just us sitting around, drinking a little bit of champagne, I could have done this back in the Jackson. That would have been my thought, personally speaking. Okay? Now I just got to be real with y'all for 1 second and let y'all know what my expectations gonna be. If you tell me self-care, I am coming with a self-care expectation. I don't expect to just be sitting around in the sister circle, drinking a little bit of champagne here and there, a sip here, a sip there, here, a sip there, a sip everywhere, a sip, sip. But there is nothing I'm being cared for. Okay, Carrie, Miss Carrie, baby, I'm gonna need you to, if we're gonna use the word therapy 100 times in this episode, like, I mean, if it's gonna be 99 bottles of beer on the wall, like, girl, where is the beer? Give me some self care. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Now, that was a very random pet peeve, high horse for me to be on, and I know I have beat it down, but it needs to be said. Okay, there was no care there, Care Bear. So it makes the situation with the women involved seem so much more awkward. I felt like they were forced to over explain why they're why Latrice and Lateshia are at odds. And I was like, girl, we already know. They know, we know, you know. So if you don't get this therapist person out here, like, just have her knock on the door. You should have just had her in another room and had her pop up like a jack in the box, because we don't have time. Like, at the end of the day, okay, we didn't need the 30-minute version, okay, of y'all having some issues. We didn't need it. We did not. Okay. All right. So, with that being said, all right, the therapist comes in and wants to know what the issues are. And I'm going to tell you, if you guys don't watch the show and you haven't caught up and you maybe haven't watched in the past 7 seasons, I'm going to tell you what my assessment is, and you guys can feel free to agree or disagree. Just let me know in the chat. From my assessment, it feels as though there is a level of distrust from Latrice with regards to Lateshia. Something has happened, whether it be something that her employees have told her, something she's seen with her own eyes, but there has been a brewing level of distrust for Lateshia over the past several years. Okay. And this is not an isolated incident. Okay. Like, the two of them have been at odds over the past 3 seasons, at least, to varying degrees, from run-ups at the reunions to, so it's just been percolating beneath the surface. So this isn't a new thing for the audience, especially those of us that have been watching for a long time. And every time that they say that this is the worst that the collective has ever been, I go back to about 2 seasons ago when there was a whole, like, almost pillow talk moment at the Taste restaurant with Akeisha and everybody and all the people, whatever happened. Okay. So when they say that this is the worst it's ever been, I'm like, it's been a little worse. Okay. There was Selena versus Saguchi in the case of the champagne glass, whatever happened with that, right? So this ain't the worst it's ever been. It might be the worst it's ever been between the two of them, but this ain't the worst it's ever been in the collective. So we can stop saying that. Now, what I do think is there is some distrust there. Something has occurred, and it has been a fraction or a fissure that has been growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. All right. So I don't even think one conversation is going to fix this situation at all. I think that this is a fundamental issue that I don't know that will ever be fixed. Now, I don't know what it is. All right. I don't know if it is a portion of the filming process that has occurred behind the scenes that has been that has that Latrice has that new light has been shed on for Latrice. I don't know what it is. There's something there that is distrustful of the situation or of Lateshia or whatever Lateshia represents. Now, what is interesting is that in their argument, Lateshia said, "There's there is one thing that Latrice does that I'm like, I do agree that when Lateshia said it, is that Latrice will usually go to, you're beneath me, this, that, and the third. I don't really kind of like that because even if somebody has never run a business, they've never had a successful business enterprise or something like that, or maybe they don't make that much money, it doesn't really make a person beneath them. I don't even know that she believes that as much as I probably think that she's so angry that that is her go-to response. That's what I really think. Now, there's something interesting that Lateshia says when she says, when Lateshia says, "You're not gonna talk to me like that," or something like that, "You can leave." She says something like, "You can leave," or I don't know what she says. She said something, and Latrice was like, "You." I I don't know what did she say? Regardless, the outcome of that was Lateshia says, "You pay me. You pay me." So let me tell you what I think that means is, okay, this is what I think it means. You think I could be wrong, and y'all tell me. This is what I think is, and this is interesting. This is the more interesting aspect of the argument is the reveal that Lateshia says, "You pay me." What does that mean? For me, that means, or the way I interpret that is that I get a percentage of your check, girl. So whatever this little thing is that you got with me, however much you distrust me, however much you don't like me, I get a percentage of what you make. Okay? I get a commission off of your admission. I get paid when you get paid. And I get paid when I get paid. So I don't care how much dirt you throw at me because, baby, the cost of admission, it comes through me. That's what I got from that. Okay? Now, I could be mistaken. I could have been misinterpreting that. But baby, let me tell you something. That was the key for me. And what I found interesting was that they left that in there in the cut. Okay. Now I recall, I don't know how true this is, but I feel like I recall that there was a similar deal. Was it similar with Jocelyn and some of them other people where Jocelyn was getting a percentage of the other people's checks? Is that true or did I make that up? Is that true or did I make that up? So Queen B more, Latrice is not a producer. What when Letitia said that to Latrice that you pay me, what I assumed is that this show was the brainchild, from what I understand, of Letitia's, excuse me, of Letitia's. This was sort of this whole Bell Collective was Letitia's vision, and initially this vision was built around the re-establishment, the rebuilding of Ferris Street. You guys recall that, right? So that was the initiative when this show first started. It was to build the businesses and to get people interested in revitalizing Ferris Street, which I did visit and get a chance to walk down when I went there. So remember when Aikisha came in, Aikisha also was buying into the idea of revitalizing Ferris Street as well. So, but again, if this show, and I don't, again, I could be making an assumption here, and I readily admit that, but I'm using my context clues based on what I know about certain aspects of the show that have been spoken about in public. Okay, this is nothing that no tea that I got from behind the scenes. And because this statement was left in the episode, I am also left to make my own deductions based on what I've seen and what I know. Okay, and again, none of this is, I wouldn't reveal no behind the scenes tea because that's not really what I do anyway on this channel. But I will discuss what somebody says and what they leave in the episode. So that I did find that interesting. And I like stuff like this. So this is when I'm talking about shows anyway, and I want to do a deep dive on the show, this is the type of thing I want to know about. Okay. Who paying who? Who's zooming who? Who getting a part of whose check? And if Latrice is quote unquote paying Lateshia, I would have to reasonably assume it was by way of I get a piece of your check. That's what I would have to assume. Okay. Is that per contract or is that per like so was that what was negotiated in the original contract for Latrice? And then does that also go for Marie? Does that also go for Carrie? Does that also go for Selena? Does that also go for Tambra? Did it go for Saguchi? Did it go for Saguchi, aka Ashante? Did it go for Akeisha? Like, how many people is getting? Are you getting the coin from? I'm just fascinated by this. And maybe again, I wasn't supposed to pick up on that, but I mean, I do feel like it was left in the episode. So now I got to wonder. I got to ask some questions. It's fascinating to me. So while I do understand that a lot of you guys will feel like this argument has been drawn out, I am ready for the two of them to sit down. Trust and believe. That's going to happen next week. But what I also found interesting in this session at this therapy at Miss Carrie Baby's house was, you do see Latrice begin to break down. You do see Letitia also break down. And, I will say I agree with the therapist that two people don't just break down like that if there's not something there. Whether it is that, they're tired of fighting, whether it's that, one person is tired of being the target, whether it's that maybe they, these types of shows are hard for true friendships because you will always be forced into, and I think you've heard Candy state this. You're always going to be forced to confront things about the relationships that you may not have chosen to confront if you were just friends and there were no cameras present. So if you think about some of the people in your life, you can probably get away with some of your dislike about some of their ways because you don't have to deal with them every single day. Like there are some friends that you probably have that are in your life and you're like, I'm really good with the boundary that we have. I don't have to deal with you all the time. So yeah, we still friends because I ain't gotta be in your orbit like 90% of the time. Unlike people who are on reality TV shows who do end up talking a lot, who do end up having to spend a lot of time on camera and off camera because you are in an incubated environment for which you really cannot escape. So unless you're mad at each other, in which case then then that all of that frequent contact, the frequent phone calls, the frequent seeing of each other can just simply stop, and the next thing you know, it's kind of like you've gone back to business as usual, which means you're living your actual day to day life without the impact of this person that was once there because of the incubation of the people and the show in and of itself. Being on a reality TV show, I will tell you guys, it is a completely different world because you live in two places, right? You live in the world in the bubble of the show while the show is filming, but you also have your actual real life. So this is very and it's an interesting space to see both of them in because both of them are also equally emotional. I hope that they take some of that emotion with them into the next sit down. I think it's high time that they sat down one on one anyway because all of these group events have not been a good look, even though the other ladies are not the other lady and this is one of those shows where I can definitely say the other ladies are not adding fuel to the fire. It does not seem like Marie is totally, I mean, obviously she's closer to Letitia, I believe, but she's definitely, I like the role that Marie is playing this season so far because I it gives me a different perspective on her. Um, yeah, it's interesting. Nobody is pouring salt on the wound, except for maybe outside people who like the employees. For and listen, they may have good reason to do so, and the friends of the show, right? Um, I can't recall the young lady's name right now. There's Letitia's friend, and then there's Mandy Girl. So there are those two people who are also in the mix, as well as like an Essie, but Essie is not really playing that much of a part in this because her ride or die is Marie. Okay, so we'll see how they work next week. Actually, next week I will be traveling, so we'll have to discuss this when we return. I will be out the weekend of the 13th and the 20th. So we'll be back in action. I don't leave until this week. So there's just a lot going on. A lot going on. So make sure you guys keep it locked onto the channel. Let me know what you thought about this episode. Did you find the things interesting that I found interesting? I know I typically, there are some things that I find interesting that I'm sure other people, when they're watching the show, they'll be like, what are you talking about? But I do like a deep dive. I do like this show in general. I feel personally connected to this show for some reason, probably because I've met these ladies in real life, and I kind of haven't. Listen, I want to support the show. I want the show to win. So I believe in it, and I hope that they have a very, very long, long journey. But I do, I do, I do. I gotta fix this camera because it's giving me a cartoon look. I do feel like I do want them to add a seventh person. I think they need one more person. They need one more power person to really round this cast out. So we'll see how things go. But yeah, y'all, keep it locked onto the channel. Happy Saturday, y'all. And I think Love and Marriage Huntsville is back tonight. So be sure to tune in and tap into that. We may talk about that tomorrow. All right. That being said, I will catch y'all in the next video.